Hey guys, what's up? Caleb Downing here, and today we are talking about the Olight Osight. The Olight's first iteration into the red dot game for pistols. Let's get into it. Alright, disclaimers out of the way. Yes, Olight did send me this, and they probably sent it to a whole bunch of other people, and I was told, do whatever you want to do with it, make a review, but don't post anything until the 17th. I think that's when they're launching this. So I'm posting this on the 17th. There's probably a bajillion of these videos out there. So, we're going to keep it short and sweet and simple. Let's talk about what comes in the box, a couple important specs that stand out to me, and talk about how this thing shot and worked, right? Let's do it. Alright, so what comes in the box? Obviously, you get the sight itself. You also get a charging hood, a charging cover. This is an interesting thing. We will talk about that in just a second. You also get your charging cable. This is USB-C. The cable charges the cover, and the cover charges the sight. Again, we'll get into that. Your adjustment screw for mounting and adjusting your sight. You get a microfiber cloth for cleaning, and then this baggy thing here. I believe this would be for probably keeping your charging accessories and stuff. That's what I believe it would be for. Another interesting thing, and this is really cool. I am very glad that Olight did this, and I wish other companies would do this. These are your mounting screws. You have M3.5, M4.0, 4x40, and 6x32. So you kind of standard mounting screws, but it comes in this hard little case, basically, with these foam inserts, and you get 3 of each one of those screws. I like this over those little baggies. Those little baggies that most optics provide, or optics companies provide, they end up getting lost. It's just a mess. I don't like them. I understand why people do them, but this is the first time I've ever seen anybody put them in a hard cover case. This is just cool. It's a simple, stupid little thing, but it's neat. I think it's cool, and I think it's innovative, and I wish other companies would do it. Maybe they will now. But that's basically what you get in the box, plus your instruction manuals and your reading materials. Speaking of instruction manuals and reading materials, let's get into some specs real quick. I'm throwing them up there and read just a couple important ones off for you, all right? All right, brightness settings are settings 12 through 1, and obviously there's an off position. On the 12th setting, which would be the dimmest setting, you get 430 hours. On your brightest setting, which is mode number 1, you supposedly get, what is that, 70,833 hours. That is a lot of modes. That's with the green version. With the red version, which is what I have, on the 12th mode, which would be again your dimmest mode, you get 510 hours, and on the brightest mode, which would be mode 1, you get 70,833 hours. Alright, you have 1 meter drop resistance and an IPX6 waterproof rating. Material is 7075 T6 aluminum, that's the housing, and working temperature is 0 Celsius to 45 degrees Celsius. Interesting factoid about the temperatures, I did stick this in the freezer overnight. If they just sent me this optic like a month ago or something like that, we really could have tested it in like actual cold weather, but it's warmed up now to about 50 degrees. It's nice. But I stuck this in the freezer and it worked. It came on whenever I picked it up. Actually, it came on when it opened the freezer door. It has a shake awake. We'll talk about that in just a second. Interesting factoid, though. I'm going to say interesting a lot. I'm going to try not to do that. But the Surefire, when I pulled this thing out of the freezer, I hit the button on the Surefire, and the Surefire turned on, but then it just flickered, and it wouldn't turn on anymore. So the Surefire did not last in the freezer overnight, but the Olight did. Just something to note. Not sure exactly what that means, but I'm going to leave it in there. All right, this optic, like I mentioned earlier, it does have a shake awake or a motion sensor. Different companies call it different things, but they do the same thing. When it senses movement, the optic turns on. You can turn that feature off. If you want the optic to stay on all the time, you can turn that off. You double click and hold down the minus button for 3 seconds, and it will toggle that mode. So it'll be always on, or you can have motion sensor. And for me so far, motion sensing, I have yet to beat the dot. Meaning I have yet to pick the pistol up and point it, and then the light comes on, or the sight comes on. The sight beats me every time. So that is, I'm not worried about that. That's kind of just normal technology right now. Alright, the optic itself has 3 main modes, and you can toggle through that by holding down the plus button for about 3 seconds. You have manual, so you can manually turn the brightness up and turn the brightness down. The next one is, it's locked out, so you set it at what you want it and you lock it out, so you're not going to accidentally press any buttons, you're not going to accidentally turn it up, down, whatever, it's just going to stay at what you leave it at. And the third one is an auto sensing. On the front of the optic, on the front of the housing, there is a light sensor, and I'm not a huge fan of light sensors and these auto adjusting things. I mean, a lot of companies have them and they're not perfect. They're still trying to figure it out, but it is very nice that this has a forward facing light sensor, and this does actually work. Whenever you're in a dimmer area and you point this optic at a bright source, if there's light coming in, right? If there's light coming in, then the sensor will pick that up and adjust the optic, right? It's going to adjust it up or down depending on what you need to do. If it's just bright out there, it's not going to be able to pick that up. It has to have a light source coming in, right? But that makes sense. If you accidentally shine your weapon light and you bounce back light at you in a hallway or whatever, the light's going to be coming back at you, and it's going to auto adjust, or going to try to auto adjust to that setting. The same thing if you were in a dark area, opened a door, and all of a sudden a bunch of light came in, it's going, as long as the sensor is pointed towards that direction, it's going to pick that up and try to auto adjust. It works better than other versions that I've seen. I still just like to keep it on manual mode. That's my personal preference, but it's nice that they actually have it in there. As far as other features that this guy has, you don't have a multi-reticle, and honestly, I'm fine with that. I don't use a multi-reticle. I mean, I don't know anybody that uses a circle, and I know very few people that are competent shooters that use the circle and dot. Most everybody that I know that's a competent shooter and they know how to shoot red dots, it's just a red dot, and the red dot on here is a 3 MOA dot, which is nice. It's not a big blooming 6 MOA. It's not anything crazy. It's a simple, very simplistic, very easy to see. I even have astigmatisms and all that kind of stuff, and it's not this massive crazy starburst. It's a nice, crisp, clean red dot. All right, another really cool feature, the main thing that makes this guy stand out compared to other optics that are out there is this guy does not have a battery. Well, he has a battery. He has an internal battery that you can't take out. I would think that would make the waterproof rating go sky high. I don't know exactly what the best waterproof rating would be, but this is a sealed unit, basically, all right? You have this portion up here on top of the hood, and this is where you charge the unit. Now, you don't get a charging cable and plug anything in. You use this charging hood, right? And this guy is charged on the back with USB Type-C. You can check the battery status of this charging case by pressing this button here on the side. Press the button, and this guy's going to light up and tell you how much battery you have in the unit itself. You can also just simply take this unit. You don't have to push buttons or turn anything on. You just place it over the hood like that. It's going to magnetically attach, and it's going to, again, show you that it's charging, the little battery's charging, and show you how much battery is in the unit itself. Not the unit on the optic, but the charging unit. To check your battery status of the optic, you simply press any one of these buttons, and when you press the button, in between there's a small little LED light. Hopefully that turned on. If it's green, I believe that means it's 100 to 50%. If it's yellow, that means it's 50 to 20%. If it's 20% to 10%, it's going to be red, and if it's 10% or below, it's going to be blinking red. So that's nice that it doesn't stay on all the time, because that would be bad for a lot of obvious reasons. You simply just press the button, check your light status, your battery status, and it's going to turn itself off here in a second. So that's actually nice. I appreciate that feature. Again, given the runtime, the batteries, I would just, so far I haven't been in a situation, I haven't run this thing down all the way, because it doesn't, I have it on shake awake, right, or motion sensing, so when it sits there after a couple minutes, I don't know if it's 3 minutes or however long it is, but after a few minutes, it just turns off. It's going to save its battery for a very long time, and honestly, if you were going to use this legitimately, it would be easy enough to, when you get up and you put your gear on, to just check the light. Does it have green? Okay, well, 24 hours in a day is longer than the brightest setting in the shortest runtime, which was like 400 hours, so you're going to be good for the day, at least. Probably good for the week, even if you have it on like the brightest setting. Very simple, right? So you can easily check your your battery settings, and then charge this guy. Now, this charging thing, I think, could be the Achilles heel of this whole unit. Even though it's it's going to be really nice not to have to keep up with batteries, you can't lose that charging cover. If you lose the charging cover, I have no knowledge of any secondary way to charge this guy up. So if you lose or break your charging cover, you're out of luck. You're going to have to get another one. I do not know of a way to manually change the battery or any plug, system, magnetic, anything else way to charge this guy. There's no solar on it, which is fine with me. It's its own thing. It's fine. Maybe someday they'll do that. But there's not going to be any other way to charge this guy up if you break or lose your charging cover, which I think is why they give you this baggie, right? And in all honesty, again, going back to the run times, it'd be easy enough to keep this charging cover charged up, keep it on your workbench, keep it on your charging station, keep it by your bed, keep it wherever, you know, you store your firearm, and it would be super easy enough to, whenever you take your gun off at the end of the day or whenever it is, or you just go to store your firearm, just stick the hood on it and you're gonna be good to go. You should be good to go. All right, let's talk about how I evaluated this thing, because this is not a long-term test. I've only had this thing for like a week and a half or 2 weeks, really about 2 weeks. And so what I've decided to do, and I'm gonna do this moving forward, I'm gonna utilize the Feel Eye Fingers drill from Haley Strategic. I've used this target for a long time, just for personal stuff, and I really like it. It just makes you focus on different things as far as your hands and your eyes and just how everything works. I think it's a good drill. It's only 50 rounds, so it's not a whole lot, and it's only shot at about 5 yards. So I zeroed the optic at 7 yards, around 7 yards, just paced it off around 7 yards. I shot the drill, and then I went back and confirmed 0. So I know that's only like 60 rounds, 50 rounds, and then a few rounds zeroing and checking 0. I don't have anything massively negative to say about the optic. It mounted perfectly fine. If we didn't talk about that already, it's RMR footprint, nothing special, nothing crazy. We already talked about the mounting hardware. Mounted very easily. The zeroing process was very easy. I love this, that fact that they did take the time to put in tactile and audible click adjustments. I like that. I don't know what each click is equivalent to. I never count the clicks, but it is very nice to have audible and tactile adjustments, because it's just, maybe it's just a peace of mind for me knowing that it's not a free spinning wheel and it's not just gonna come loose, you know, vibrations aren't gonna turn the knobs or whatever. It's just better in my opinion, and they did that. And some optics that I've had, they are a pain in the butt to zero, because you're trying to move the reticle up and it kind of comes up at an angle. It's so frustrating. This guy did not do that. The clicks, the adjustments are straight and true, however you want to say it. It was easy and simple to get this zeroed. All right, I can't stress that enough. There's plenty of optics out there, lower grade, cheaper, inexpensive, whatever term you want to throw at it, that are a pain in the butt to zero. They won't zero, and they won't hold 0. As far as holding 0, after we shot the drill and did the drill, this seemed that maybe there was about a ½ an inch to an inch, maybe in that ballpark, of a shift. It was a very tight group. After looking at the footage, it was a very tight group, but it did seem to shift up. Didn't shift left and right, sporadic, weird stuff. So maybe that was me. I was shooting off of a rest. It wasn't vice down or anything. I was just shooting it off of a rest. And maybe it was the gun got hot and the barrel got hot, and so it just thermally shifted. Only at like 7 yards, so it can't be that much anyway. So I'm not sure. I'm just going to throw that out there. But for me and my purposes, if this is what this guy was for, I mean, I was not perfect, but I was shooting these little 1-inch circles. Not perfect every time, but when I did my part, I could easily put a hole in the 1-inch circle. So it was doing what it needed to do. Even when I got down to the end, unless I was pushing it, it was easy enough to do, and it was not becoming sporadic and just throwing rounds everywhere, right? Unless I was doing that. All right, guys, so that's the Olight Osight. I think they hit it out of the park for their first iteration of a pistol red dot. I'm glad they went with the RMR footprint, because that's going to give the most mounting capability. Speaking of mounting, they did send me this doesn't come with it, but they did send me an RMR to 1913 adapter, so I could put this on a PCC. The size of this guy is a little larger, so you could put it on a PCC. I don't see anything wrong with that. For me personally, I just like to keep these guys open emitters like this, just keep them on pistols. If I want to put a sight on a rifle, generally, unless I just have a surplus of open emitter sights where I'm trying to test them, I like to just have closed emitters on PCCs. But for this particular kind of a wheelhouse use, I'm perfectly fine with open emitters like this. But I like what they've done. I really do like what they've done. Like I said, the only major hesitation I have with this is if you happen to lose or break this charging unit, then I don't know how you would secondarily charge your optic. I'm not exactly sure how you would go about doing that. But anyway, that's my 2 cents on this guy. I hope you found it interesting and helpful. I would love to hear your guys' thoughts. I know this is probably going to it's going to be really divisive. Olight stuff is very polarizing anyway. Now there's putting optics on pistols. So some people are probably going to love this, and some people are going to be vehemently opposed to it, and I want to hear from you one way or the other. Do you think this is a good idea? Do you think this is innovative, especially with this charging unit? Do you think it's innovative, or do you think it's got some problems down the road that you might foresee? I'd love to hear back from you and get you guys' thoughts. Anyway, thank you, Olight, for sending this thing out. I'm going to keep using this. I'm going to keep shooting this, and hopefully we just keep running it, and hopefully it just keeps running. Hopefully. We'll see. We'll see. All right. Y'all be safe. Appreciate you. And hopefully we'll catch you guys in the next video. See ya.